John, one thing's for sure. There is no definitives in this league. That's what we learned from week 4.
Yeah, it's a week-to-week proposition. Nobody proves that thesis more than the Pittsburgh Steelers, who obviously get trounced by the Eagles one week, and the next week they look like world beaters. Now, they did get Le'Veon Bell back, so that's a big deal. He had about 180 yards of all-purpose yardage, so I don't want to dismiss that. But, hey, throughout the league, who would have predicted the Los Angeles Rams at 3-1 after losing to Chip Kelly's 49ers 28-0? It's a crazy league, and we talk about it all the time. There's no gimmies in this league. Anybody can jump up and bite you.
We'll get into week 4 in the NFL in just a second, John, but let's get some news and notes from today's practice. Zach Ertz got the MRI all checked out, ready to go?
Yeah, he's medically cleared. No practice today, just some media availability, but they'll be back to work Wednesday. And Zach is medically cleared, so that's a positive development. And obviously for the Eagles, I've said it time and time again, if you think about their receivers as a whole, collectively, you add the wideouts, the tight ends, the running backs, everybody together, I think Zach Ertz is the best receiver on this team. So it's very, very important to get him back and get him back in the mix.
Yeah, and, Leotis McKelvin, another one, he didn't sound like he was quite as, 100% with his answer, but are all signs kind of pointing towards him being back too?
Yeah, but as you point, it's iffy because Leotis has spoken like that before. So even dating back to week 2, he said maybe he could be able to go. So that's one of those lingering injuries. He himself has called it a fast guy injury. And obviously the one thing you don't want to do is get back on the field before you're completely 100% ready, and then you tweak it again. So he feels good about it. He thinks he's going to play, but that's one we got to keep an eye on as the week progresses.
Also, you look at the Eagles, by the way, resuming practice on Wednesday to get ready for the Detroit Lions. By the way, the Lions lost to the Bears 17-14 yesterday. It was a tough outing for the Lions, boy. But like as we just said, you can't go off of what you saw the week before and take for granted what's coming up for you here. But there is some news on Nigel Bradham. I don't know if there's been new information in the last hour, but there's a TMZ report. The team has commented on it very vaguely, but they've acknowledged that he was arrested on a weapons charge different from the arrest he had in Miami 3 months ago. But this also coming in Miami. John, what do you know about the latest Bradham run-in with the law?
Well, he is just NFL coaches don't like this time off, and you just hold your breath. We talk about it in the off season. Now you have the bye week, and you hope everybody stays out of trouble. It seems like, at least on the surface, this is an honest mistake. I think that's what the authorities believe, and the fact that he had a firearm in his backpack as he was trying to go through Miami International Airport. So you can snicker at that and call him dumb and anything you want. But he did have a concealed carry permit, so from that standpoint, he's okay. It's not like it was an illegal weapon that he wasn't allowed to carry. So from that point, at least it's not as bad as it could be. But, you don't want your players doing this kind of thing and doing foolish things. So from that standpoint, there's no way to paint it as good.
John McMullen's with us as we're talking some Eagles football. And I guess, John, when you bring up Nigel Bradham and that incident right there, the first thing that jumped in my mind was Barry Switzer years ago. It's different than that.
Well, this is not the first time this has happened across the country. There are people who own firearms and forget they have them and pick up a backpack and they're traveling and obviously it's going to be found and you're going to be fined and it's serious, but it's not as serious as it could be. So I guess if you're trying to spin it as positively as possible, that's the way you got to go.
Well, let's get away from him for a minute and get to some good news. Looks like good news for Ertz and McKelvin. How about Ryan Mathews today?
Well, Ryan is always iffy. I think the joke is we're all day to day in life, but more so for Ryan Mathews as far as playing football. I mean, he's had that ankle wrapped up for a number of weeks, and the Eagles didn't put him on the injury report, so obviously they were trying to be as clandestine as possible with it, hoping the opponent doesn't, start to twist the ankle when he's out there. But obviously, it's not getting any better, because as we go before the bye against Pittsburgh, he had his lowest touch count yet. So obviously, it's hampering him. But Doug has said time and time again, when he's healthy, he's the starting running back. He's the guy who's going to carry most of the load. I believe that's the case. We'll have to see Wednesday if the ankle is still taped up and see how it progresses. But clearly with Ryan Mathews, you're never completely sure he's going to be 100%.
John McMullen, 97.3 ESPN.com. We'll dive more into the Eagles and the NFL on tomorrow's show, and John is with us in the studio. We'll go heavy on the NFL, but we'll also look at some Week 4 highlights here with John, just a little bit of a tease about what we'll go into more depth tomorrow. Let's start with some wild games yesterday, by the way. You got, you had the Pittsburgh blowout last night. You had Buffalo shutting out New England. You have St. Louis in first place. You got the two teams in the NFC Championship game, both 1-3 right now. I mean, it's bizarro world out there. Let's start with Carolina. Carolina gave up 45 yesterday to Atlanta. This was a team that, dominated defensively last year. This was a team that quietly had one of the best offenses in the league as well. What is the problem with the Panthers right now?
Well, yesterday, I think that one landed on the desk of Dave Gettleman, the GM down there, because everyone's going to look at Matt Ryan throwing for 500 yards, Julio Jones having 300 yards receiving, and they're going to say, where's Josh Norman? And not only did you let Josh Norman walk, you didn't get anything in return for him. You just took off the franchise tag and waved goodbye. And obviously, if he's out on the field, it's probably not going to be that way. So he's going to take some heat certainly this week, and probably deservedly so. And that defensive backfield was never the strength of that defense to begin with. It was always the front seven. So once you couple it with a pass rush that was kind of off, and Matt Ryan, we're going to fall. I know you're not going to fall for it, Mike, but I'm going to fall for it early in the season. We're at the quarter pole of this season. If you were voting for MVP of this league, you got to go Matt Ryan.
I might be turning the corner. I might be turning the corner on him, because this time it seems like he's smart enough just to say, the hell with it. I'm just going to throw the ball to Julio Jones every time. 300 yards last night for Julio Jones. Buffalo, 2 weeks ago, they're the laughing stock. We're killing them for getting rid of Roman. We're mocking them because they get rid of the offensive coordinator when the defense gave up, however many points they gave up against the Jets. And then they go and beat Arizona, who now looks like they have their own problems. But they shut out the Patriots. And I don't care who's playing quarterback for the Patriots. When you shut them out, that makes news. So are the Bills getting the last laugh here?
I don't think so. I kind of look at that as an anomaly, because you're right with the Patriots, and everybody gives them the benefit of the doubt. You should. But not only are they down to their third-string quarterback, they're down to their third-string quarterback who's injured and probably shouldn't be out there and might undergo surgery this week when Tom Brady comes back. He might not be back for this season. So he was not 100%. And it was a perfect storm type situation for Buffalo. And you got to give them credit for taking advantage of it. And that's all you can do. I always say it's not who you play, it's when you play them. And they got to play the Patriots at the perfect time. So they took advantage of that situation. They deserve credit for it. But from a longer view, I don't think it changes much about Rex Ryan. He still is what he is. He's going to be more concerned about bragging about this win probably than getting ready for next week. That's just his nature. He finally beats Belichick, and he loves doing that. And I just don't think he's even tempered enough to be a long-term success in Buffalo.
John McMullen, today's pigskin.com with more on the NFL. A couple other games. Let's go to the NFC East games and get your opinion. Washington, another just blunder from the officials, it looks like, in this game. I mean, really changed the complexion of that one. Cleveland down early. It looked like Washington started to click. Cleveland comes fighting back, but Washington too much in the end. What'd you learn about Washington yesterday?
Not much. They didn't play well. They were playing a bad opponent, and they took advantage, similar to the Eagles in Week 1. You can only play who's in front of you. And to a certain degree, Dallas also wasn't all that impressive, but they weathered the storm and beat a bad opponent. Yeah, there was a bad call in that Redskins game, but I'm not going to – when you think about Cleveland turning it over 3 straight times in the key part of that game, you can't blame it on one call. We always talked about last week, the Browns being addicted to losing. They're just going to find ways to lose games, and that's what happened again. So I'm not going to be that impressed. Yeah, I'm not going to be that impressed with the Washington Redskins, but certainly it was a game they should have won. They had to win. They did win it, but they weren't all that impressive in doing so.
Dallas, they had their battle too. I mean, yesterday on the road in San Francisco, I had said leading into the game, John, if Dallas wants to be taken serious, these are the kind of games they have to win. Give them credit. They took care of business on the road. Another game they win without Romo, but this time they did it without Des Bryant.
Yeah, and same thing. It's a game they should have won because it's a really bad opponent. But it's a little bit more difficult because it's on the road. And any NFL road game is kind of difficult, and they weathered the storm early, were able to come back. I think the most impressive thing for Dallas is they're getting that running game going with Ezekiel Elliott, and that could make them scary because if he gets consistent with the type of talent he has, and if they're going to have a 120-yard rusher every week, all of a sudden you got to start to worry about the Dallas Cowboys a little bit more.
All right, give me your thoughts tonight. Giants, Vikings, Monday night on 97.3 ESPN. The Vikings obviously at home. Sam Bradford got to be settling into that offense a little bit more against this Giants team, which, bad week for Eli last week with that big pick against a very good defense. He's going to see better defense this week than last week.
Yeah, he is. And about the only thing you have in the Giants corner this week is this has been a week of upsets because this would be a major upset if they were going to go into Minneapolis and win without their 2 top running backs because Rashad Jennings is now ruled out. So they have a lot of injury problems on the back end at safety as well. So they're a banged-up team going on the road to face the team that's better than them when they're 100%. And Eli Manning generally has a very, very difficult time in his career when playing the Vikings. I expect that to continue, but this is the NFL, and it was just upset Sunday, so maybe it can continue, but it certainly doesn't look good for the Giants on paper.
All right, that's tonight right here on 97.3 ESPN. I know a lot of Eagle fans will be locked in on that one as John McMullen will join us. We'll go in depth on all of the Week 4 games, what we learned. We'll also have tomorrow who's in and who is out from the NFL playoffs at 3:30 when John joins us in studio. Thank you, John.
Hey, thank you, guys.